Quite a few of you are conversant with the Revolution Metals story. I presented it about a year ago, and this is a story about rekindling a historical gold project. And now I'd like to show you something. This is the newspaper. Now, I don't know how many people read the newspaper anymore, but we've definitely got Dalmorton Goldfields Revival. Now, this was very kindly lent to me by the chief geologist of the Little River Company, Dr. Peter Warner, who's here tonight, who was the geologist during the 80s and did a significant amount of work on that. So I thought I was bringing it in back to you, Peter, and I thought that's terrific that it made first page. And if you can get a gold mine on the first page of the newspaper, you're doing well. So our organisational genetics project managing it. Richard's doing our CSIRO. Unfortunately, Richard couldn't make it tonight. David is our tech geo, and Vlad's brought in H&S Consulting for our JORC estimation. And of course, I'm going to mention Dr. Peter Warner, who did a fantastic amount of work there. Now, the project location is in northeast New South Wales. Now, this is a kind of an ignored part of New South Wales. Of course, there was a gold rush there in the early days, and it became a national park, and really, everybody moved further afield to look for gold. But as we'll hear tonight, the gold stories are going to get better and better tonight. But as you'll hear tonight, the new style of mineralisation, which is an IRGS style of mineralisation, is starting to become evident in a lot of places in New South Wales that were former gold rushes. So basically we're about 9 kilometres east of the Demon Fault. If you're a geologist, you'll know that. And this area was formerly National Park, and it was National Park on the mining databases right up until the time I visited Maitland and convinced them it wasn't. But that's another story. So we've got Getty and BP drilled that in the 80s, and in conjunction with Little River Gold Company as a joint venture under the direction of Dr. Peter Warner, and 26,000 ounces of gold were delineated in ironstone. Further to the north there's the Mount Remarkable area, which is a hydrothermal quartz occurrence. There are a couple of different types of mineralisation in this area, but it's primarily gold in quartz, whereas the Pine Creek deposit is primarily gold disseminated in ironstone. And the reason why this is interesting is that we have this thermal activity that's created gold, and we've got intrusive activity that's indicating gold, and many men have tried to figure out where it actually is, and we're going to give it another go. Definitely it's a commercial proposition right now because of the amount of gold that has been delineated there. We've decided to take another 4 units, which is another 12 square kilometres, which is directly to the south there on a historical mine called the Alice Cornwall mine. Dalmorton is on the old New England Highway, or the old Glen Innes Highway rather, between Grafton and Glen Innes. There's a new one now. This one's a dirt track, basically a one-track dirt track, and this location here had 20,000 people living in there in the 1890s to the early 1900s. There were 80 gold reefs, and a lot of those gold reefs were all shallow artisanal workings, but those 80 gold reefs were re-identified in the 80s by Little River Gold Company, who went back and researched the newspaper clippings and the applications for mining rights and what have you from the newspapers, because the mining records were destroyed by fire. And so a lot of information was lost. So we picked up the exploration licence in July 2013. We've just applied for an extension to that licence, which is due and imminent, and we're looking at progressing it. We've done a reasonable amount of desktop research and quite a few visits to the area, and we're convinced that we're on a wonderful opportunity. Now, I've just thought I'd show you a couple of more recent geological maps. This is the Coffs Harbour block. And it shows the structural fault lines in the Coffs Harbour block. Now on the far eastern side, you'll see Coffs Harbour, and about halfway you'll see that Demon Fault. And you can see the geology is significantly affected by this Demon Fault. But what I'd like to draw your attention to, ladies and gentlemen, are the fault lines on the eastern side of that Demon Fault. You can see from Coffs Harbour they travel roughly east-west and then they veer north. Now that's where Dalmorton is, sitting right over those structural fault lines that have been disturbed by the Demon Fault. I'll just give you a picture of the gold occurrences in that area. Now I wish I could blow it up, but there's a significant amount of gold running along those fault lines in the Coffs Harbour block. A lot of historical gold mining activity, and I think it shows a great deal of promise for the Dalmorton area, because as last month in Investorium we had Mr. Peter Cook stand here and say that gold mines never die, they just go deeper. And so we're very keen to progress that. So there is that. Now, I've just mentioned the IRGS, that's an intrusion-related gold system. I can't even read this on this presentation, so please forgive me for putting such small print up on the screen. I just really wanted to get through this quite quickly because we've got another terrific opportunity to present straight after me. So we now have about 40 square kilometres, extensive desktop research, and an incredible amount of very articulate research done historically for this area, which validates the whole commercial exercise. And I'll say a commercial exercise, I won't say it's a drilling project, it's more like a near-term commercial reality for getting gold out of the ground. And now how do you do that? Well, as ABM Resources also presented last month, a trial processing plant enabled them to generate $4 million in revenue from a 10,000 tonne crushing. We don't think we're very far away from that ourselves. So them having established that prima facie, we think we can follow straight in there with the department. So we're going to re-establish the grids and the tracks. That's what we're doing now. We're revalidating the Pine Creek drill data to JORC status through H&S Consultants. We're going for an inferred resource on the current data that we have. We went out to Londonderry out near Windsor, and we found the core that Getty and BP drilled. And thanks to the advice of Peter Warner, who notified us that it was out there. And we sawed that core up and we had it revalidated. And we had it re-assayed. We did a modern multi-element assay on it, and also the fire assay on it, and it came back with exactly the same historical grades that are reported well, I'll show you some of the drill logs right now. We're also very interested in the drilling subsidy program that the government's offering to private companies to 50% of their drilling. Now, drilling is a second stage operation. The primary stage is crushing up the rock that's on the surface. There are literally thousands and thousands of tonnes of artisanal rock dumped on the surface, and the gentlemen that were mining that area previously, if they couldn't see gold, it was over the shoulder. Now, of course, we visited quite recently up there, and with a geologist hammer, broke a rock open with a magnifying glass, visible gold. And so very confident that there's a significant amount of gold there. That's the area again. This is an old map, a topographic map, and those pinky areas are historical working. So you can see there's a significant amount of scratching around there. And so we've encompassed the main area of interest, which is an ironstone formation. Mount Remarkable, I've mentioned before, is a quartz hydrothermal, and so is Mount Poole. Pine Creek is our vertical stratiform, and that's what it looks like. It runs straight through that. And so a lot of those gold reefs are occurring around the iron stratiform ironstone. Here's a cross-section of Getty and BP drilling on the Pine Creek lode, showing the grades on the right. 3.4 grams to the tonne between 31 and 50, That's average grade of 3.4. So it's quite close to the surface. Between 8 and 11, we're getting 5.1 grams to the tonne, and 40 to 48, 3.5 grams to the tonne. And the deepest drilling was only around about 150 metres. And look at that. It's still there. There's a 10-head stamper there. That's me in the centre there, and on flanking me is Dr. Peter Warner and Alex Warner. And so Peter had a lot to do with this area. And I'd been up there 3 times, walked that mountain, it's a very steep mountain, and he said, is the gold crusher still there, the old stamper? I said, no, it's gone, can't find it. He said, oh, well, I'll come up and we'll go and visit it. I got the biggest surprise of my life, because I'd been trekking up and down that bush, and you know, you come into a clearing, and there it was, a great big huge gold stamper, 10-head stamper. Now, the historical stamping that this thing did, it was installed in 1938 and it stamped till 1941, and that's what it did. So you can see in 38 it was doing half an ounce to the tonne. Now this is selective work. They're just digging it out, blowing it out of that mine behind it. There's a shaft that runs for 300 metres in behind that stamper in perfect condition. The railway tracks are still on the floor. The woodwork and the stoping work is all intact. It's just amazingly well preserved. And right at the back of the mine, the tunnel, mine, a channel sample done by Little River Gold returned, how much was it, Peter? 20 grams to the tonne? Channel sample, right at the back of where they stopped. And so Rayner in 1958 or 59 estimated that thing went right the way through Mount Remarkable, so there's another 240,000 tonnes. Now it's not an inferred resource or anything, but you know, if you can go and scratch gold off the side of the cave, it's got to be worth further investigation. So that's what Mount Remarkable looks like, cross section, and the best gold was about 7,000 tonnes. This is an estimate, 7,000 tonnes at 24 grams a tonne. That was Rayner, government geologist, in 59. Possible reserves 138,000 tonnes, and so that square area around to the right of the adits is the potential ore zone, and it's a quartz thing. So that's where they got a lot of the gold there. The rich gold was coming there. But interestingly, there are adits going all the way up this mountain, and on doing the research, I found back in the 1890s there was a reef called the Argosy Reef. Do you remember that one, Pina? Now, historically, that was discovered at 21 ounces to the tonne. That's right at the top. And so the reason why it's called Mount Remarkable is the whole deposit became Mount Remarkable when the Mount Remarkable Mining Company took on that whole area all the way up to the top of the mountain and over to the other side. But significant visible gold must have been at the top of that, which indicates there's a whole area of undrilled, underexplored stockwork. All right, so what's the upside here? Private company at the moment, zero legacy debt, very low operating cash costs. We'd like to do a 8 to 10,000 tonne processing trial plant, which we've watched ABM Resources do recently. We have a lot more prospectivity for exploration around the area, and this was included in a couple of companies. This asset's been floated at least 2 times, most recently by Elementos. It was in the prospectus for Elementos. That was a spin-off from Orocobra, and Elementos decided to chase opportunities in South America and left it alone. And so in we hopped. The BP with the joint venture with Getty and BP delineated 26,000 ounces. So we know fairly certain that without much work and a bit of dynamite and a tractor, we've got 26,000 ounces in the back of the truck. No freehold or native title. We're redefining the JORC, as I mentioned, and we've got some interesting territory to explore around there. Now, these are the drill logs. These were saved from the original drill logs. Now, the Little River Gold Company had an assay laboratory on the site, as well as sending that off to ALS in Brisbane, I believe. Now, you can see on the right-hand side those grades. The mean grades there, 8, 9.4, 9.13. These are the... So we've got a mean around about 10 grams to the tonne, from between 127 to 130 to 134 metres. This is a section between 100 and 131 metres, going 9, 10, 7, 7, 7, 7 and 8 and 8. And so these are particularly interesting assay results, historical assay results. And see, 130 metres isn't deep. You'll hear about a deep story in a minute. But look at this, 7, 8, 7, 7, 7, 8. So we know we've got great grades and intersections. And as you might have seen on the intersection, the Getty intersection before where they drilled, they just popped through that section there. So we're talking a vertical stratiform that's quite rich at the surface for the first 10 metres. And that first 10 metres is basically exposed on the side of the mountain. So very easily accessible. We don't have to do a huge open pit to access that. If we were to develop the full 232,000 tonnes, yes, an open pit's required. But we think we can generate significant revenue initially from the easy to access processable material. There's even a pilot plant plan that's been created for this. A few more assay results going up to 14 grams and 13 grams to the tonne there, 16. So terrific bunch of logs. I won't go into a financial outlook, but we're looking at generating around 16 million over 3 years. We do have funding models, but they become redundant when the price of gold changes. So basically our OPEX for the 3 years is about 1.6 million. Very low cost operation. And on that, I'd like to finish the presentation and immediately launch into a Q&A. So if anyone has a question, please raise your hand and I'll endeavour to answer it.